Good evening, church. Early on in the month, I thought about the theme about Christianity is not a spectator sport, and thought about a way in which every one of us could get involved. The last few weeks, we've looked at the big things, and we've looked at how we can keep those Bibles up in front there, signing them, with having baptisms continually happening. And everybody knows that that's the way you get involved. But that's not the only way you get involved. Sometimes you get the urge to do something, just a little thing, something special for someone. And so tonight I had two young ladies who made me a nice little cookie. And I'm so proud to be able to get that. They even put my initials on it. They thought about something that they could do. For you it might not have been a big thing, but for them it was a big thing. And a lot of effort and a lot of thought went into that. Not too long ago, in fact I saw it today, there was a family that came from Alaska traveling down, and they eventually got through a city called Eugene. I think it's Eugene, Oregon. And they did not have a place to stay, but more important than that, they were trying to save money. And so they'd already, on the way down from Alaska, slept on the road, and they thought, well, we can do that again. It's not too cold. And about 10 o'clock, they parked in a park where the closing time of the park was 10 o'clock. So around about 10 o'clock, there was a tap on the window, and there was a police officer. And they assumed what was going to happen, and so the dad got out, and he said, can I help you? And the officer said, well, actually, I think I can help you. I'd like to give you a gift certificate to a local motel for 2 nights. I want you and your family to sleep in a warm place. And he said, that's really not necessary. We're used to doing this. We just try to save money. But he insisted, and this went viral. It came out that a college-aged church had decided to put this money together instead of buying Christmas presents that year and give it to the police department and say to them, we want you to use this at your discretion. And they did, and it worked out really well. I love what we do on the Finger Food Sundays. We break up into 4 different groups, and we talk around, we sit around the tables, and we talk about just that. How can we keep doing good things? How can we keep the momentum of the congregation going in the direction Jesus wants it? And it also gives a voice to the entire church. So there's a lot of other benefits to this. But this is the night, and if you haven't come prepared to bring some finger food, please stay and share the ideas that Jesus lays on your heart as to how we can be a church that will imitate Him. I thought about the parables and what parable could really motivate us to get into what we need to do, to get off the benches and onto the game. Ben, I think I saw you playing this afternoon baseball, and that was really neat. You had that blue shirt on when you were playing today, and when you turned around, I thought it would say painter, and it didn't. So you did extra well, getting ready for service tonight. But it's a lot better being on the field, isn't it, than cheering somebody on. So how can we get onto the field? And what I thought about was Matthew 25. And if you can please open your Bibles to Matthew 25. And because I'm trying to do this more in a Devo style than a whole lesson, I'm going to skip through reading the text twice, and we'll just end up at a place called The True Story, Andrew, while they turn there. This really happened. It was a man who is today a very well-known preacher. He's on TV just about every day. And one day, 20 years ago, he he was at this town where he was born, and 20 miles away, a church asked him to come and preach. He had to walk the 20 miles. Nobody knew that. They just knew from the after effects that he'd walked the 20 miles, because his lesson wasn't the only thing that didn't smell too good. And, he was thirsty, he was hungry, and he got up and he preached, and it might not have been the best lesson, maybe because he was so tired and so worn out, but nobody offered him any water. Nobody offered him any food. Nobody reacted really positively to the lesson. But 20 years later, when he was now this well-known preacher, this little church had become a little bit of a bigger church, in fact, quite a big church, and they built a new building. They wanted to have a well-known preacher from their area come in and dedicate that church. And so the preacher came in, and I want you to imagine, if you would, who do you think he ate with? 20 years previous, as he left that building, walking home, a janitor from a local school, a young man at that time, invited him over to share a humble meal with him in his humble little shed. And they ate that meal, and he drank some water, and it gave him the energy to go back. But 20 years later, he comes back to dedicate the church. Who do you think he eats with? You know, I'm thinking about Jesus, and when he comes again, and folks, Jesus is coming again, who's he going to want to eat with? Who's he going to want to fellowship with? How do you think we should respond when we come across somebody that's in need? If we respond with good intentions, I don't think that's enough. If we respond because of humanitarian needs, I don't think that is enough. I only think that if we have a real solid relationship with Jesus, that we'll see people in need and we'll see and know exactly how to respond. And so probably right now I need to ask you to think about your life. Who are the people that you walk right by? Who's the people who are the least in your life? Who are the people who maybe you avoid, as the story of the Good Samaritan? Or who are the people that you will maybe even go further on and laugh at? In Luke chapter 10, we find the story of the Good Samaritan, and this forms a really good backdrop to the current parable in Matthew 25 that we'll look at tonight. Ask yourself, why did that Good Samaritan stop and help? Was it because he was a good man? Did he want people to think nice of him? Did he want me to stand up yet 2,000 years later and tell you about the story of the Good Samaritan? Why did he help? I think he helped while everybody else avoided the man in need. I think he helped because he had a good relationship with God. And so he just knew the right thing to do because God was living through him. And so this is a lesson that we need to have today, because we get judged every single day by how we live our lives. And we get judged not by the little things we're doing, because we're either going to help people or we're not. We are actually being judged by the relationship that we have with the Father, because we'll automatically be hard-pressed just to let little things go. So with that, let's start with Matthew 25. And if you have your Bibles open to Matthew 25, and we'll see the three sections. There'll be the separator, we'll see the separation, and then we'll see how this affects us as we are the separated. So first of all, number one, the separator. Who is the separator? Verse 31. When the Son of Man, who's that? The Son of Man is Jesus. When the Son of Man comes, and this is the word parousia. We talk oftentimes about the second coming of Christ, the second parousia. When the Son of Man comes in his glory, and so think about the pomp and ceremony of this incredible event. And all these angels with him. You know, imagine a king coming, or a president coming to address a country. And imagine all the police of the country and all the military and everybody that makes you understand how important this man is, being with that president. Well, this is what it's going to be like when Jesus comes. We'll come with him. Then he will sit on his glorious throne. You get the very clear impression that we will be in front of something very, very important. And so we see that there are four parables that talk about this, from Matthew 24, verses 43 through to this one that we are right now. And they're all about judgment. And they all say this is going to happen when Jesus comes again. And no one is going to know when that's going to happen. In Matthew, there are some other returns of Jesus mentioned, and they shed some light on this. In chapter 16, verse 27, it says, again, for the Son of Man is going to come with his angels in the glory of his Father, and then he will, listen to this, repay each person according to what he has done. So if you want to sit in the stands, if you don't want to get into the game, you're going to have no one to blame except the person you see in the mirror in the morning and the conscience that you live with. Also, verse 30 of chapter 24, then will appear in heaven the sign of the Son of Man, and all the tribes on the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And you have to ask yourself, why will all the nations mourn? See, not many people are going to be where they need to be. I think you're going to have a few people on the field playing the game, and there's going to be the majority, thousands and thousands on the stands as spectators. And I think the spectators are going to mourn. You can imagine being at a Reds game, and you're in the stand, and you look up in the clouds, and you see the sign of the Son of Man coming in His glory, and everybody in the field, they're cheering and they're happy, and everybody in the stands, they're not happy. They're very sad. They're very scared because they never got into the game. So behold, Jesus says in Revelation 22 verse 12, behold, I am coming soon, bringing my reward with me to repay each one for what he has done. And it's going to happen. As sure as where I'm standing here and talking to you, it's going to happen. There is so much incentive, not for the bad, not for the scary, not for the negative to get into the game. But think about all the blessings you miss when you're not in the game. If we look at Matthew 24 verse 3, the backdrop to this, the scripture that actually started this, is Jesus sitting with His apostles. And they ask Him 3 questions. And most people just hear one question because they want to, I don't know, maybe they want to ease their conscience. And so they make everything of Matthew 24 to be about the destruction of Jerusalem. And it's not. Only 1/3 is about the destruction of Jerusalem. There's a very clear halfway mark where it switches from the destruction of the Temple of Jerusalem to the other 2 questions. And here are all the questions that are asked. And He sat down on the Mount of Olives. His disciples came to Him. There's the word parousia again. It's so obvious in the Greek that he's putting these ideas together. They came to Him privately saying, tell us, when will these things be? And what will be the sign of your coming? That's the word parousia. That's the one that we are wondering about. Because question number one, when will these things be? That was this destruction of Jerusalem. When did that happen? AD 70. It's happened. Don't worry about that. That's past. There's 2 more things you've got to keep in mind. The second one is, and what will be the sign of your coming? When will you come in the clouds as you left? And then, I don't know if this will be shortly after, my personal opinion, and many others think that it will be very close on each other, but it doesn't really matter. But the end of the age, I think that will happen soon after the second coming, but we don't know. So we go on from number 1, we see this separated, to number 2, the separation. There are sheep and there are goats. The sheep are on the right side, the goats on the left side. Why? Why is the separation happening? Verse 32 and 33, before Him will be gathered all nations, and He will separate people one from another, as a shepherd separates sheep from goats. And He will place the sheep on His right, but the goats on His left. So who will be gathered? Will it be just those who are alive? Or will it be everybody? Philippians chapter 2 verse 9 onwards tells us that everybody will be gathered. Both the living and the dead will be gathered. There will not be one knee that will not bow and confess to Christ. And so what will happen at this time is you'll have the sheep on the right and the goats on the left. And when you ask yourself, why is sheep likened to those who are saved and goats likened to those who are not saved? Sheep have a beautiful temperament, don't they? But goats, they just mean. They're stubborn, where sheep is meek, and sheep give wool. All you get from goats is meat, and it's not real nice meat either. You know, it's okay. I'd rather eat sheep meat any day than goat meat. But in any case, you find the separation happening, and again, that's a fact. This is the separator is a fact. And then you see the separated. You see those people have been separated. And there's an astonishing question. They don't know why this has happened. Those that are the sheep and they're separated, they don't know why. Those who are goats who are separated, they don't know why. Why are we in this category? Why are we saved and why are we not saved? But it's not so much that we are saved. That's not the question. It's when did we serve you? When were you the one? And so it says here in verse 34, the contents, the cause, the confusion, the clarifications, what we'll see here. First of all, the contents, there's inheritance. Then the king will say to those on his right, come you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. And he has the cause, verse 35, for I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me. He has the confusion. Then the righteous will answer him, saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, thirsty and give you drink? And when did we see you a stranger and welcome you? When did we see you naked and clothe you? Or when did we see you sick or in prison and visit you? And he has the clarification. Folks, this is so important that you get this. If you want to know how to get into the game, just look at this one thing. Let it sink into your head, let it sink into your heart, and actually do something about it. Let this one statement change the way you live the rest of your life from this point on. And the king will answer, truly I say to you, as you did it to one of the least of these, my brothers, you did it to me. And yes, it does say we need to take care of the brothers. And it is talking about the saved, but we'll broaden the category a little bit. Truly I say to you, as you did for the least of these brothers. Normally when he talks about little ones in Matthew, or always, it's referring to the apostles. And brothers refers to our spiritual brothers, not outsiders. But when we look at Galatians chapter 6, verse 9 through 10, it says very clearly, let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. Stay in the game. Listen to verse 10. So then, this is the reason I'm telling you this. As we have opportunity. How do you get into the game? Just look. Look around you. There will be opportunities. In fact, there will be many, many opportunities. As we have opportunity, let us do good to everyone, and especially to those who are of the household of faith. Now, many key on those last words that are underlined there, household of faith. But didn't it say, let us do good to everyone? When last did you have an opportunity to do something nice for Jesus? No. When last did you have something nice to do to Jesus? Would you pass something like that by? If you actually saw Jesus in need, would you pass that opportunity? What an incredible opportunity. And that's what it is. It's not a negative thing. Getting in the game is a wonderful thing. Who likes to sit in the stands and cheer when you could actually be selected to be in the game? So let's play a game. And this game is called Who Is This? Okay, let's go to that. Who is this? So the first picture is somebody holding a sign. I'm hungry. Who is this hungry person? Church, who is that hungry person? Anybody want to guess? Jesus, right? Okay, let's go to the next one. Who is this thirsty person? Jesus. Okay, we're getting it. It's not too hard, right? It's pretty easy. Okay, let's go to the next one. Who is this homeless stranger person? Jesus, yes. I like the way the devil's kind of turning his head away, right? Like the Good Samaritan. Don't look at that need over there. Okay, who is this clothed person? This is a conga. Thank you. We got a Jesus there. That person's got a conga. All they wear in Nairobi, Kenya, or in Kenya, is a big cloth. It's about this big, and they wrap it up, and there's 90 different things you can do with a conga. You can make a handbag out of a conga. That one lady had a handbag. The lady in the bottom corner, she's carrying a baby in a conga. The one on the other side there has made a three-piece a dress out of a conga. So they got one at the bottom there, and then they have it coming up, and then they make a hat, and then they have the middle part here. And they also use the conga to carry water home, all kinds of things. I mean, a conga is not expensive, folks, but most people in Kenya, if they can afford a conga, they can only afford one conga. And so there are a lot of people who need that opportunity. Okay, let's play this one again. Who is the sick person? Jesus, good. Okay, now let's look at this one. Who is the imprisoned person? So this person is imprisoned by an addiction. And that is an opportunity to help Jesus. In the bottom corner you have Saul needing his material to write. And so there's another one actually in a prison, but it can be many different things. And so why do we help? What is the motive behind the Good Samaritan? What is he thinking about getting out of this? In James chapter 4, verse 17, it explains it as follows. It says, so whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, for him it is sin. You get the opportunity, you don't do it. What about somebody who's left, who's walked off, and is now out of fellowship? My brothers, if anyone among you wanders from the truth, and someone brings him back, let him know that whoever brings back a sinner from his wandering will save his soul from death and will cover a multitude of sins. So why don't we? Why don't we take advantage of all these opportunities? Maybe we feel that we're not comfortable. Maybe we don't see Jesus as the addict. Maybe we don't see Jesus as that homeless person. Or maybe we think that people need to get their lives out of their own mess because they got themselves in it. But right at the bottom there, I've got commentary on this. They were not surprised, they were saved. They were only surprised that they were taking care of Jesus. They never knew it. And you and I are going to have that exact same reaction if we don't change our lives drastically tonight. If you see an opportunity and you don't take care of it, you're going to hear something really bad. When I was putting this lesson together 3 weeks ago, one of the members had a video of Francine Christophe. And this lady was holding up a little sign that said Jew in German. She was from France, and she was forced as a little girl to wear this thing on her. And as a little girl, that was a huge sign. It almost covered her. And she said that as they were coming out of France, they were allowed to take one spoil with them. And so the mother said, why don't we take 2 chocolates, one for you and one for me, and when you're down and out and you've got no more energy, we'll take that chocolate and it'll give you strength. She's just like maybe 6, 7, 8 years old when this happened. And so they're in this concentration camp, and there's a friend, and this lady is pregnant. But she's so thin you can't really see she's pregnant, but the time came for her to give birth. When that baby came out, there was no energy, so the mother gave this lady's mother on the screen there gave that lady who was in labor that chocolate, and that's how she could bring the baby forth. But that baby was just wrapped in swaddling clothes, didn't cry, didn't make any sound. Well, many years later, this lady is now a mother of her own, and her daughter asks her a question, because she's a psychologist, asks her a question, how would these people in Germany have been different coming out of these Nazi concentration camps if they could have received counseling? The mother says, I don't know, but that's a good question. Let's put together a seminar. And they put together the seminar, and they invited all these people to the seminar to discuss this incredibly interesting topic. There were psychiatrists, there were psychologists, there were survivors of the Nazi concentration camps, all types of people there. And it was a tremendous conference, and a lot of good ideas came out of the conference. And one lady got up, and she was a psychiatrist, and she said, before I deliver my talk, I've got a gift to give to Francine Christophe. She said, I owe you a chocolate. I'm that little girl that was born in the concentration camp. That little baby didn't cry at all until 6 months later when they were relieved out of the concentration camps, and they took the swaddling clothes off that baby, and the baby cried. And it's like that was the moment that this baby was born. And there's the strength of a little chocolate. A huge gift at that point. So sometimes we give and we have the wrong motives. We want to do it because we want to be righteous. And we think if we do good things, that'll make us good in the eyes of God. But our righteous deeds, Isaiah says, are like dirty, filthy, or polluted garments for Jesus. And sometimes we want to do good because we'll think we'll make a difference, not realizing that the strength we get is going to be from Jesus. In Philippians chapter 2, verse 13, after talking about every knee shall bow, every tongue shall confess, it says, for it is God who works in you, both to will and to work for his good pleasure. And verse 21 of Hebrews chapter 13 says that he equips us for everything, for every good thing, so that we can do it. It is he who works in us. When we look at the separated and we see all that happened, there we see that there's going to be the same question. Why did this happen? But under the separated, I have a few interesting questions. The first one is, when was heaven created and when was hell created? Heaven was created before the foundation of the earth. But hell was created when evil came into this world. And who was heaven created for? And who was hell created for? Heaven was created for us. Hell was not created for us. Hell was created for the devil and his angels. You do not want to end up as a spectator in this game, because it's not going to be very comfortable. Today there are 795 million people who are hungry. Just in the U.S., we find that there's 12.9% of people who are undernourished in this world. We don't have to begin to think about the following when he says, "For I was hungry, thirsty, a stranger, sick, prison." We know that the opportunities are there, and we know that we need to get involved. There's so many other slides that we could cover, but let's just end with this. The thing that I really want you to understand is you're being given opportunity every time you see a need. And when you stop and you take care of that need, especially when it's the least person, you might have an argument in your head like, "Lord, you want me to take care of that guy over there? You want me to wash his feet? Lord, you know when last he bathed? You know how his feet stink?" There'll be a lot of opportunities to make excuses, but there will only be one opportunity to do good. And I really pray that you all will be changed forever. When you think about getting in the game from this point on, it's as simple as keeping your eyes open and looking and just helping. If you're subject to the gospel invitation today, it's very, very easy to become part of the Lord's church. You become part of the Lord's church through dying with Him, through being buried with Him, and resurrecting to walk a new life. If you hear this gospel call in your heart today, is there anything that's preventing you from being baptized? Is there anything preventing you from becoming a child of God? If not, why don't you? If you need the prayers of the church to strengthen you in any way, please come forward right now as together we stand and sing.